Hey, everybody. Looking forward to sharing some content with Anshu Sinha, a friend of mine and a data science expert who I've done a couple podcasts with in the past. We're going to talk first about the AI agent space, and then in a second follow up, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the competitive landscape and really the industry and infrastructure necessary to support AI going forward. So hope you enjoy this first half and look forward to following up next week sometime with the second half.
Good to see you. It's been a while. I'm working with kind of scaled organization called Fractional Exec, and I wanted to bring you back into the equation because we've been writing articles about AI, and it's always nice to have a data expert to draw from. And so glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about what's been new and hot in the world of AI.
I'll dive right in on the agent front. That seems to be the most recent exciting topic area, and I'm still trying to learn how to leverage agents. What do they mean? We're hearing they're very promising in real world applications and kind of the next step up from robotic process automation. But what does it mean? How can people use them? And what are you seeing today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think everyone out there is like, okay, what is an AI agent? Like, how is it different from an LLM? And really, like, an AI agent is definitely a more complex version of an LLM. AI agents are autonomous and they are performing more complex tasks. In and of itself, like AI agents aren't anything new. They've existed for some time. I think a great example is like a Roomba, that robotic vacuum cleaner. Like that kind of is an AI agent. It interacts with its environment, with cameras and sensors. It uses information to create an execution plan. It learns as it goes. Like those are sort of the critical pieces. Agents are systems and programs that can autonomously perform complex tasks on behalf of a user or even on behalf of another system by understanding inputs and environment, setting up that execution plan, and then utilizing available tools. That connection to the external tools is really critical. So LLM-based AI agents are the next big thing because of the LLM part, right? And all the possibilities that LLMs unlock. So the LLMs have, as we all know, the almost human-like natural language processing capabilities and response, the memory, so that's like in the form of both the context window and the RAG capabilities. They have the ability, with that memory piece, they have the ability to improve over time. And that feedback loop, that continuous learning is really what makes AI agents shine. And then they have the ability to write code and interact with external tools. So yeah, it's opened up a world of possibilities.
Yeah, that's very cool. So touched on kind of a consumer application and moving into the business side of the equation. What are the industries or scenarios or use cases that are probably likely to benefit most early? And then on the other side of that same question is where do you see some big obstacles?
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like there are a world of possibilities for AI agent implementations. There are some existing examples out there that are consumer facing. One big one that I know I use and tried is a Google Deep Research. So this can generate like analyst level research reports for you. It takes your requirements, it takes your data and information, it searches the web, it analyzes all that data and generates a well formatted report, like a 10-12 page report with citations and all of that. It is part of their like $20 a month tier, and it's great. The other big one that I think people will be really excited about is the OpenAI, the operator. This is it's still in research preview, but it takes control of a web browser. So you can book travel, your flights, your accommodations. You can make restaurant reservations. It allows you to shop online based on your preferences. So really, it's like doing the work of searching through all these different sites, finding what it thinks matches your needs, and then doing the booking. So like I said, that's in research preview. It's in their $200 a month tier, so it's more expensive. I haven't tried that one, but I'd be interested to know what people are thinking about that. And then in terms of like, industries, one of my favorites that's really come up recently is this idea of vibe coding. So this is in the software tech world, my world. For some time now, there have been a whole set of like coding tools that are AI and LLM enabled. You can think of things like GitHub Copilot, Replit, Cursor, and a handful of others. And it connects with an LLM, and you can use it to automate a lot of coding. And that process has really been advancing. And so we call this like vibe coding, where you don't really have to code, you just kind of tell the system what you want. So there's this guy, and I'm going to read, which is this guy, Andrej Karpathy, who is one of the OpenAI co-founders. He's the guy who coined this term, vibe coding, and he just posted this like a few weeks ago. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, there's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you just fully give in to the vibes and forget that the code even exists. The LLMs are getting too good. I ask for things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because I'm too lazy to find it. I accept all always. I don't read the diffs. When I get error messages, I just copy and paste them in with no comment, and that usually fixes it. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and copy paste stuff, and it mostly works. So this will be totally transformational for this field. It is the next layer of abstraction where coding will go from a task of implementing specifications to really communicating clearly what you want and having the system build it. So I think that's one, and I think once you think of an AI agent as a great assistant, as like a force multiplier, it can be valuable across so many different skill areas and industries. There's also, there's enterprise companies that are coming out with, out of the box AI agents. So IBM through Watson has a product where they have like out of the box agents for customer service, for HR, for procurement, for sales. And then these agents can talk to each other. So you can imagine your customer service agent talking to a customer who has an issue with a product, and then the customer service agent, works with the sales agent and executes a return, or maybe gives feedback back to the logistic, the procurement agent. But healthcare, science research, anything with robots, once robots are successfully LLM enabled, any industry that can use robots will benefit from AI agents.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's great. I've got a current client that I'm working with that's very similar. Like we're testing different startup integrations for things like customer service, automation of tasks, and that's where the next question would come from. Like you've got a technology kind of background, and you talked a little bit about how it helps application developers, which is wonderful because from my experience in that same space, those folks are always trying to find an easier way to solve their problem, faster. They don't want to have to dig deep and write all the code. They want to figure out a way to automate things. But what's the difference between automation tools and like true reasoning and sophistication?
Yeah. So like I almost have this answer, which is like, does it even matter, right? Like it's like that is like a really broad philosophical question. Founders, a lot of these founders of these big AI companies, like they are, like Sam Altman. He says OpenAI knows how to build artificial general intelligence, and they're aiming for super intelligence. He thinks it could arrive in a few years. Shane Legg, who is the DeepMind guy, Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO, they say by the end of the decade. Like, so, artificial general intelligence, like, the people that are building these things, they think it's here and coming. I would say, like to my view, they are brilliant pattern matchers. But do they have feelings? Do they have desires? Do they act on free will to take actions? Like, no, I don't personally see that. But I think people are thinking about that. So that is like, the other guy I think about, so this guy, Elliot Sutskever, who is one of the other OpenAI co-founders, these guys, um, you know, he also posted, I think it may be that today's large neural networks are slightly conscious. Like he said that, right? So, and he compares them to kind of a Boltzmann brain. Like when it's alive and working, it's kind of aware. People are thinking about that. One of the things that he's doing is focusing on what they call super alignment. Alignment is you know basically a safety control to make sure that AI models do what you want and nothing more. So it's trying to make create a set of fail-safe procedures for building and controlling this. On the flip side, like the automation piece of it, kind of like I said, I don't think anyone quite thinks it's like, oh, it's not quite out of the box. It just goes and you do it. Like there's a lot of people, everyone that's using it knows it's like, oh, it's pretty good. I take what I want, speeds me up, like polishes, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, totally. Well, I do want to expand on that one because I feel like I'm behind. You mentioned several technologies and leaders in this space, and I test and use these tools all the time. So I probably have 4 different AI solutions. I use Google, I use OpenAI or ChatGPT. I use Notebook LM. But then there's like Claude. I've never used Claude once, and I feel like I'm like missing stuff. And Grok just came out, and so what's your take on that? Like, are we able to keep up with all of these changes and all of these companies that are seeking to grab market share?
it is crazy. Like something new is coming out like every day. It is impossible to keep up. I have these conversations at work every day too, where it's like, yeah, it's just hard to keep up. Everybody kind of has their favorites. Like I'm very similar to you. I do like Claude, especially for coding. I fall back on ChatGPT a lot. I've tested out a bunch of other things, especially in the Google suite. But yeah, there's something new coming out all the time, and this is just the LLM side. There's also the image and video generation, and it is a lot like like at the leading edge of the industry, they're all competing with each other and coming out with sort of similar products. People that I follow on X and I read tech meme and sort of keep up that way. But trying and using everything, it's like impossible, and it really does turn into a word of mouth. I feel like it's a lot like, oh, TV and movies, like, have you seen this, have you tried this?
Yeah,
Like
right.
and they are like, and they are kind of like uh as agents, like they're all kind of distinct. So
Gotcha. So let's close out on the agent topic with, I'm kind of curious because, again, doing business applications in my world as a consultant, what are the risks? Are there things we should be worried about from an ethical perspective? Are there high stakes kind of regulatory things we need to consider, or what can we do to help these companies and others mitigate risks if we're using agents to perform tasks that previously were performed by humans?
yeah, there are definitely obstacles and hurdles and ways to tackle them. And like I've said a couple times is that the obstacles, like first and foremost, there are still technical barriers. This is not fully fleshed out. It's not fail safe. There's people thinking about the more existential fail safe issues, but really kind of like, as we all know, when you are working with an LLM, even still, like when they error, they don't err in the same way a human errors. They can have really big errors, and with complex tasks, they don't deliver exactly what you want. The tool integration, all of this, it's like AI agents really still are in their R&D phase, so there are still a good number of technical obstacles. Of course, cost is also an obstacle. These are not cheap. They're not cheap to build. They're not cheap to run. They're not cheap to use. Developing AI agents, that is like a specialized AI development skill. It takes computational resources, and so that's a big hurdle. And I think right now you see only the biggest companies developing these products, and small and medium-sized business are kind of at the user end. So that's an unfortunate thing. That is, it's a locked up product at this point, I think. Also there's challenges with the labor market. There's, understandably, there's excitement on one side, but understandably there's also resistance. There's also fear. So, organizational level change is, you know, always a slow process, and it's really important to bring the labor force along and kind of reskill. They'll need to sort of be trained to work with AI agents and AI. And even on the labor market side, like there needs to be more skilled talent to develop these products. There aren't as many AI engineers and data scientists and AI ethicists to sort of do all the implementation work. And that current labor market it needs to be upskilled, which I think is an exciting opportunity. And as you said, there are ethics questions. There's bias in these systems. The explainability is not always there. So yeah, in terms of like that's kind of like what I see as the obstacles in terms of like how we handle them. I mean, I think that first and foremost, those safeguards and regular testings are key. To your point about regulations, like it's really critical to develop the right regulations, and we need the right people that sort of understand these systems to be jumping in to do that. It is really, it's encouraging to me when we see like the leaders of these fields, like Jeff Hinton, like Ilya Sutskever, that are concerned and are, weighing in and thinking and putting their expert minds to this task. I would also say too, the reasoning models that AI agents are based on, like you'll see the LLMs have shifted to like these reasoning-based models where they do a little bit more to explain this is how they're working, what their execution plan is. That's really helpful. And then, I think, as I'm a big proponent of public AI initiatives, and that really is supercompute infrastructure that is dedicated for public good and public use. It is not sort of locked behind the walled garden of like the bigger companies. And this really allows us to do, public AI infrastructure allows us to do so many things. It allows us, even if we're sort of one generation behind, it allows us to really keep up. It allows us to build a community of trained professionals. It allows us, allows academics a way sort of in to using supercompute, so getting more great minds, more public and research-oriented minds, in the mix. It supports small businesses and innovation, so not just as end users, but what can they, if you have access to these open source systems, like what can you do under the hood? And really, policymakers can look at public AI and use it to understand it, to create funding vehicles for priority initiatives, to develop regulations. There are risks and there are ethics concerns, but I mean, I think as this is moving forward, and I think it's really incumbent on all of us in the community to really be a part of making it be implemented responsibly.
That was comprehensive. Appreciate that. And we're going to switch gears here and talk a little bit more about like what's going on in the global competitive landscape.
Hey, everybody. That was me and Anshu talking a little bit about the AI agent space. The next conversation we're going to have is going to delve a little bit deeper into the competitive landscape, and then really industry and infrastructure. What's it going to take to support AI as we move forward? Appreciate you guys all joining this time around, though. So look for the next half of that recorded session coming up next week.